I just wanted to discuss the Falcons. I mean, you live down in Atlanta. I mean, you are a partial Falcons fan now. I got to say, they could be for real rest of season because this was a great road effort. And normally, Ryan's a bit like got the Big Ben road syndrome. And the Redskins are not a bad defense by all means. So
They haven't been, no, but they looked like it yesterday. That was a pretty convincing win for Atlanta. I was good to see. It was good to see Julio score a touchdown finally. And I mean, it was exactly what we've been talking about. It wasn't a goal line look, and it wasn't a 50-yard bomb. It was he caught the ball and he ran it into the end zone because sometimes he's just unstoppable. And it's like it was funny to see. Like at some point, you can tell he was frustrated, and the Falcons were all frustrated. And it's not like that play call is there's no one's like, all right, let's get Julio Jones a touchdown. Here's a bubble screen. That's not what you do, right? It's like that was just a play that they were running, and Julio can turn it into that. That's what makes Julio great is he can do that. But that doesn't make him great at the goal line, So it's like if you're a Julio fan, it's almost like they talked a lot in the game about how Julio's been a mentor to Calvin Ridley, and Ridley's been having this great season. But Ridley also kind of reminded Julio is you don't have to wait for a target in the end zone, man. You can just take it to the house. Like Ridley did that earlier in the game, and Julio, the determination that Julio had on that touchdown, it's like, generally he's revered for being like steady and he just consistent, just level-headed and produces, right? But like sometimes I think he needs to get a little bit angrier, not more selfish because I don't think that's what it is, but like he needs, there are times where like if he could be that determined on every play, he would lead the league in touchdowns. If he was that determined on every goal line play, then he would be great at the goal line. He'd be just as good as Gronk. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he doesn't have it, man. It's almost like he's uncomfortable with it. It's almost like he's uncomfortable. That's what last year, twice. Someone please fact check me, but no, don't. Whatever. I'm close enough on it. 2 divisional opponents, Carolina and New Orleans. He dropped like 50-plus yard long bombs that he's wide open on in the end zone. Both touchdowns would have like iced those games. They managed to win the game against New Orleans, but they lost the game against Carolina. And it's like, man, you don't get enough. You don't get to have a big enough sample size to figure out later if you were right or wrong about something. Like that's just like it's almost like it was too easy, and he's uncomfortable with it. He needs to be more comfortable being like, no, I'm the best. Like he needs to stop just I'm a good teammate. He needs to know that like, no, I'm the best player, and like oftentimes the best thing for the Falcons to do is give me the ball. And that's it. Like. He's too nice. He's too nice. And I'm sick of praising him for how nice he is. I want to start praising him for how tenacious he is.
Well, Calvin Ridley doesn't have any problem scoring his touchdowns. So
exactly, because Calvin Ridley knows if he gets the ball in his hand, he thinks I can go. Obviously, Julio doesn't not think this or think that. Obviously, you know what I mean? I'm like just describing the way their games are expressing themselves, But I mean, like, that determination on that play, I feel like there wasn't any extra effort to get Julio the touchdown because you don't need to. You just need to it's almost like they've accepted Julio doing all these making all these tough catches all the way up and down the field. Everything's it's a hook and he's jumping 3 feet in the air and he's coming down with the ball, stuff like that. Like they're not hitting him in stride as much. They're not letting him just go, and maybe that's the reminder. That's the lesson. It's not that they don't know that they have Julio Jones or they don't know how to get him the ball. He's so good at everything he does that you settle for some of what he does, forgetting that he can also be the one doing something else.
Yeah. I do find it funny though when they're inside of the 10 in the red zone, they don't even look at him. They don't even consider him.
It's terrible. In the games where they give him 3 looks at the goal line, he gets single coverage by a guy who's 5'10".
It's crazy.
Goal line, and that's fine. It's okay to admit that.
Yeah.
He's good at everything else. Get him the ball in more in different types of ways. He'll score more touchdowns.
Yeah.
I'll do a run of having him make tough hooks. you know, and stuff.
I was watching, so I'm watching two good offenses normally last night, the Packers and the Patriots.
Mhm.
And they say every year, you want to get a piece of this offense, you want to get a player from this offense. If you can get Rodgers a second receiver or Brady's second or third receivers. I don't know really if the auxiliary receivers on some of these powerhouse offenses, it's not like it used to be. Sure, Valdez-Scantling made some great plays, was probably targeted 4 or 5 times last night. Traquan Smith, yeah, he scored a touchdown, but I don't think he was a big part of the game plan.
Yeah.
And sure, Josh Gordon was good. Hogan barely got a sniff. And I don't really know if this whole argument for you want the auxiliary receivers on better teams, I don't know if that's really cutting it this year. Is that like this year? Have you noticed that at all?
Yeah, I think you're right. I wonder if it is. I mean, obviously, receiver in general, just pass production is like it's like TV ratings at this point. You know what I mean? Like there's just too many options. But for any one of them to feel like they're especially good, if there's 5 million TV networks, every single one of them thinks their ratings are too low. But I think that, I think what the key is. So you can find value, like draft day value, by passing on the stars of a given offense and taking these sort of auxiliary options. You can find a lot of value, but if they're not the driver of that offense or one of the drivers of that offense, then even as talented as you might think they are, really their talent is they're just capable of filling a role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means they themselves are not necessarily anything special. And they're always going to be subject to the whims of everything else going on. Sometimes you find out that a player is actually better than that. Like Robert Woods, I think, is an example of. I always thought he was just a guy who's a professional wide receiver and who will do a job, well, but like unexceptionally. Robert Woods is pretty good,
Yeah, he is.
And he's the exception, though. Most Robert Woods types end up being Chris Hogan. Basically Buffalo wide receivers is what we're talking about.